Hi, welcome to City Talk. I'm Michelle Bono, the assistant to the city manager for the city of Tallahassee. When you think about kids going hungry, you may be like me and think about children in third world countries and seeing some of the videos showing their dire circumstances. But when I think about kids going hungry, I don't really think about Tallahassee, Florida. And yet, as you're going to learn on our show today, there are hundreds of children that go to bed hungry in our community every night. Fortunately, there are a number of agencies working together to address this problem, and on today's show we're going to tell you about the problems and what's being done. Let's start by joining producer Gil Dasbott to learn more about the situation.
Our community has come a long way towards the goal of ensuring children don't go hungry. In addition to having free or reduced price meals in the schools, initiatives like a full summer and the backpack program help children get proper nutrition when schools are closed for the summer or holidays. But there's one obvious aspect of child hunger that often gets missed. For some children, the free or reduced price meals they get when school is in session are the only meals they'll get for the day. There isn't any food at home. And constant hunger interferes with children developing into good students. To address this significant problem, Mayor Marks and the City of Tallahassee applied for and received a $45,000 grant to begin a year-round program to provide more meals to children. The city partnered with the Tallahassee Housing Authority, Second Harvest of the Big Bend, and Florida Impact to submit the grant. And thanks to the award, those partners plan to provide nearly 70,000 additional meals per year to young people in our community. 70,000 is a lot of meals, but the need is that great. Of 50 total Leon County schools, there are 10 where 100% of the students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. 10 more schools have 70% or more of their students eligible for free or reduced lunch. Countywide, for every 4 students, one of them lives in poverty. All these statistics affect how much nutrition some students get, which affects how well those students learn, which really affects our community's future. That's why getting this grant is important. The money won't just buy a year's worth of meals. Instead, it will be used to expand child nutrition programs so they can provide the extra needed meals into the future. Tallahassee is regarded as a progressive city in many ways. By finding funds to feed our neediest children, the city is trying to make sure all citizens share in our community's progress.
I miss eating dinner with my family in our own kitchen.
550 children in Tallahassee are missing the simple joys of being a kid.
I miss having my own bed. I miss having our own house.
550 kids missing the simple comfort of having a place to call home. Join the Change for Change program by simply adding a monthly contribution to your city utility account. For the cost of just a gallon of milk, you can help all our kids enjoy the simple, extraordinary things about just being a kid.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about children in our community who are hungry and what we're doing to address that. I am delighted to welcome 2 experts to our show. It's my pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction. That is our Mayor, John Marks. Welcome to our City Talk.
I'm glad to be here on this particular subject.
Absolutely. And also we have Tony Williams, who is the Food and Nutrition Program Coordinator for Florida Impact. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I want to start, Tony, with you just to tell us, people may say, what is Florida Impact? Tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about the programs.
Sure. Florida Impact is a statewide anti-hunger advocacy organization. We conduct outreach and advocacy to help bring the federal child nutrition programs to Florida.
Okay.
These are programs that help fill in the gaps for kids who are food insecure. Programs like school breakfast, after school meals, and the summer food service program. In addition to helping children, they bring millions of dollars in federal funds to the benefit of Florida's low-income families.
Okay. You know, we talked about the issue of kids going to bed hungry. I don't think we think about that. I mean, I just think in Tallahassee, we think that doesn't happen. Both of you all, tell me, what have you learned about that situation, and why does that happen in our community?
Well, I guess it happens because there's some neglect, unfortunately, with some of our kids in this community. And we like to think that this nation is a nation without poverty. We like to think this is a nation without hunger, but that's not the case at all. We do have children going to bed hungry. We do have adults, for that matter, going to bed hungry. And so we have to address it in the best way we possibly can. And I'm certainly glad that the federal government is doing what they're doing, but we do have to have the private sector also participate. And that's what some of the things we're doing through my office, what we're trying to do is get the private sector involved in this issue of hunger. That's what we want to do. Mm-hmm.
Well, and Tony, do you see do you find that people are surprised at some of the information you all have about the situation in our community?
Yes, absolutely. In Leon County, over 36% of children qualify for free or reduced price meals, and we're often concerned about those kids because in many cases they really rely on that meal that they get in school. So what happens on the evenings or weekends or summertime, right? Around 1 in 4 children in Leon County are in poverty.
Wow.
And
1 in 4?
1 in 4.
Wow.
And it might not always look like what we envision when we're thinking about other parts of the world, but it could be issues of undernutrition, of children lacking the healthy meals that they need for that educational development and to succeed.
Okay.
Understand something, that 12% that you referred to, that's nearly 12,000 kids in our community that now are seeking some sort of assistance in terms of being fed, in terms of their hunger. So that's quite a bit, and we have 50 schools in the city of Tallahassee, and at least 28% of them, 28 of those schools have 50% or more of their kids on the food program, on the program. And I think it's 12 of them, 12 of those schools, 70% of the kids are on the program. So that's a significant amount of children. So we have to do something in our community to assist those families as well as those kids. But those kids are what we're really concerned about.
Right.
Well, and just quickly too, I think, you know, that's not something people want to talk about in terms of those who need the help. You don't want people knowing your circumstances or knowing those issues. So I understand it's an issue of pride, but it's also an issue of need. Now, Mayor, I know your office recently applied for and received a grant. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did you get involved in this?
Well, you know, we found out about this grant, at least my staff did. Max Stout, I got to give Max a lot of credit for this one. But he's on my staff. He's the one that really spearheaded the effort for us to get this grant. We got a grant of $45,000 from the National League of Cities through the Walmart Foundation. So we have to give credit to Walmart in their efforts. As a matter of fact, I understand that Walmart has spent over $14 million in their efforts to address this issue. So, but we applied for a grant through the National League of Cities, and we got $45,000. Now we have to understand that's not necessarily for food, that is to help the infrastructure. So it has kind of a multiplying effect. We're leveraging that $45,000 so we can get even more food. But we expect that as a result of this, we hope about 70,000 meals will be served to our kids.
Wow. And who are some of the partners? How does that work? How do we leverage that in the community through our partners?
Well, obviously, Florida Impact. We're doing a marvelous job. Tallahassee Housing Authority. And there's another group.
Second Harvest, too,
Second Harvest, that's right. Second Harvest is involved, and they'll be the food distributors fundamentally. But what we want to do is make sure we use the monies that we receive, the $45,000, to leverage that to get more. And that's the important thing about, you know, seeking these kinds of grants, because those grants are there, and we can use those grants to the benefit of our community.
And how do you all use that with Florida Impact? How do you take these new opportunities for assistance?
This grant is really going to go to America's Second Harvest of the Big Bend and the Tallahassee Housing Authority. The purpose is to help them build their after-school meals and summer food service programs. These are federal reimbursement programs, which is what the mayor's talking about when he says this money really isn't intended to just sort of buy food once and then feed the kids. The purpose of this funding is to build these sustainable reimbursement programs. Basically, organizations like nonprofits, churches, cities, and school districts are reimbursed for the cost of food and some administrative costs by the federal government when they participate in these programs, which allows them to use their other limited funds on programming.
Gotcha.
A lot of times the hardest part is just getting started. So that's where this grant is coming in to help build the infrastructure and develop those partnerships to expand these programs and get them running.
Now, I know there's something called the Florida Partnership to End Childhood Hunger. What is that and how does that work?
Sure. Florida Impact is the convening member, sort of the facilitator of this coalition. So the Florida Partnership to End Childhood Hunger is a coalition of nonprofit, corporate, and public agencies around the state who work together to address child hunger. We say that we want to reach hungry children where they live, where they learn, and where they play. And that's why we focus on these federal programs that fill in those gaps for kids when they're in out of school time, like after school and during the summer.
Okay. You know, Mayor, when we talk about how this grant is going to help in our community, I know there's some immediate things, but what are some of the long-term benefits too? How is this grant going to help us address this need?
Well, as we indicated earlier, you know, this is kind of for infrastructure. Maybe we can get food trucks. Maybe we can get things that we can deliver foods to certain communities in certain areas. I have seen this occur in many rural areas. I saw a program in Tennessee where they do have people going out into the communities to ensure that the kids are fed. So that's what I like about the $45,000 that we received. We're, again, somewhat repetitious, but it has to be known, we're leveraging that money and we're going to get more out of that than just $45,000 worth of food. So that's the important thing. And we can, you know, we live in a country where there should not be hunger.
Right.
Let's face it, we live in a country, and a little bit of history. You know, in the mid-1960s, Lyndon Johnson declared a war on poverty. We're still at war. And that's something is wrong with that. We could do better than that. We should not have hungry kids in our community anywhere. We are the most powerful nation in the world. We're the most well-educated nation in the world. But yet and still, we're here today talking about how we can feed our kids. We're going to have to continue fighting, no doubt. And don't get me wrong, we have to continue fighting, but we need to have a concerted effort to win this war on hunger in our country. So that's what this is all about, in my opinion.
You know, when you talk about the impact on school kids, and I think that's something that touches all of our hearts. Mayor, I know you spend a lot of time in schools. You've spent a lot of time working with the Housing Authority and Second Harvest. You know, what's most meaningful to you all about this program? Because I know, you know, on the global scale, we talk about the infrastructure and all, but at the end of the day, I think it comes down to parents and kids and people. Tell me a little bit about, you know, what you hope to get out of this, or any story or any experience that really sticks with either one of you guys.
Well, I have to talk a little bit about one of my favorite programs, and that's my initiative to go out into our schools and actually read to our kids. That's where you get a hands-on feeling, and you see these kids in the classrooms, and you know that some of them, you realize that some of them may not have the right kind of meals and not being fed appropriately. And so your heart goes out to those kids. Fortunately, our schools and schools lunch programs are helping these kids. But that's when it becomes very, very human. You know, I just love to see our kids. I love to be around them. That's one of my favorite activities, is to go out there and see the kids. But you know, when you see one that you know probably did not get that breakfast, and the only meal they may get is the one at school, and they may have an after school program. You know, it really is kind of the thing that, you know, you feel very, very, you feel for it, period. That's the only thing I can say. And so we've got to help those kids. And let's always remember, a hungry kid cannot learn.
Right.
They can't. And so if we want to better ourselves and better our society and better our communities, we got to make sure that everybody is fed and fed well with their proper nutrition. And I think we have the capability in this country to do it. And we just have to put our minds to it and do it. And the individuals such as Tony here, see, they're doing a wonderful job in trying to address that. And he got my hands go to Walmart.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the biggest private sector industries here, and they're willing to spend $14 million to address the problem. And so my hands, I mean, I congratulate them, I thank them for doing this. We just need more to step up.
And Tony, how about you? I know you get to experience and see how this impacts families as well.
Sure, and to be honest, I really work on public policy issues, and before I was with Florida Impact, I actually worked at a food bank in Jacksonville, Second Harvest, North Florida. Even then, I worked with volunteers more than the direct services side of things, but I'll never forget one of my coworkers, a monitor, went out to one of the after-school programs to observe, an after-school snack program, and a little girl was stuffing some extra food into her pocket to take home. And she asked her, "Why are you doing that, sweetie?" And the little girl said, "It's not my weekend to eat." So that story really drove it home for me. Even facing these issues day in and day out, it is sometimes hard to remember that we're talking about real children, that this is a human, there's a human face to this issue, and that the statistics are important, but at the end of the day, we're really here to help these kids.
But the point is, that shouldn't occur.
Right.
I mean,
Not in our community.
Not in our communities, not in our country, not here. That should not occur, and we have to do better. And we have to do better.
Well, I want to thank the two of you all, Mayor, you and your leadership in your office in getting this grant to make a difference. Tony, for your ongoing commitment to making sure we're all working together to address this problem, because clearly it does take the whole community to address it. So thank you again for your dedication and your commitment.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
on.
thank
Really.
you.
Well, and when we come back, we're going to talk to two other participants in this program that are going to talk about how they're providing services to these kids in need. Stay with us.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans. These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids. Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. So is the solution.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Sick? Yeah, fever, aches, pains, but I never take sick days.
We're almost at the bottom of the graph there. Your part is covered here. We got it covered. If you want to go.
It's kind of a record, really. 5 years, no sick days.
Want you to meet our new employee, John. Welcome aboard. How would I describe Ben to you? The next Black Plague. They're going to say, how did that happen? Was it rats? No, it was Ben over at Amalgamated, responsible for the death of Europe.
Thinking about asking to get some plastic wrap put around over there or something.
Hello, Ben. This is Officer Fairchild at the fire department. We need you to evacuate as soon as possible.
Evacuation?
Yes.
Now?
Uh-huh. Please.
Jeff, this is you, isn't it?
No!
Sure, I love it when my employees are dedicated and they want to come to work. But you got to draw the line.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about how the community is coming together with a number of agencies to address children in our community that are hungry. I'm delighted to welcome to our program now two people who do this every day. The first is Rich English, who's the Executive Director of Second Harvest of the Big Bend, and then also Andrea Wilson, the Director of Resident Initiatives for the Tallahassee Housing Authority. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, Rich, tell us a little bit. I think most people living here know about Second Harvest, but tell us a little bit about what you all do and what's the purpose of your organization.
Second Harvest is one of 202 food banks across the country in the Feeding America network. We're one of 14 food banks in the state of Florida. We distributed over 6.7 million pounds of food in the Big Bend region last year.
Oh, wait, say that one more time.
6.7 million pounds.
Wow, okay.
Yes, over 11 counties. We obviously feed the hungry. We feed the seniors, we feed homeless, we feed what we call the working poor, and of course we feed children.
Okay, and we're going to come back and talk more about kids. Tell me a little bit in terms of, Andrea, when we think about the Housing Authority, I think about providing needed housing in the community. I never thought about food. Tell me how the Housing Authority addresses that.
Well, the issue is that housing is a primary concern, But there are other things. Our goal is to help our families to become self-sufficient. So we need to address the whole person. So we provide many programs, especially feeding for the family, and now this new addition to addressing childhood hunger, so that we can help our families to become self-sufficient.
Now let's talk about how this new grant and how this program that the Mayor's Office really helped bring to our community, how's that being utilized in your organizations?
This has been a fabulous opportunity, working with the Mayor's Office, America's Second Harvest, who we already have a partnership with, Florida Impact, and the Tallahassee Housing Authority coming together to try to address hunger year-round. We, as a housing authority, we're doing summer food service program, and that's been great. So our youth look forward to that at our community centers every summer. And now we're saying, okay, let's look at this thing holistically. During the school year, when the kids come home from school, we want to make sure that they're fed for with their hunger, so they can come over to our community centers, and not just there in our community centers, our kids for our community, but the kids in the surrounding areas also can come in, 18 and under, and have a meal. So we work with these organizations to try to get something started. So what we want to look to now is, how do we keep this, and how do we sustain this and continue this year-round effort to address childhood hunger?
So it's not just even housing authority residents, it's also people that live nearby that need that
People
service
that
as
live
well.
nearby can also come and have a meal, 18 and under.
Now, talking about kids, Rich, I know something that I think you guys have gotten a lot of attention for that I still would love for you to describe. Tell us about your backpack program and how that has been so essential in helping kids, because we know they get a good meal at school if they choose to take that, but what happens when they go home?
That's a very important question, and while they're in school, they obviously have the ability to secure nutritious meals. But they go home on the weekends and they don't have food, or they don't have the proper nutrition at home, and they come into school on Mondays, they're tired and they can't concentrate, they can't focus, and they can't learn. We have multiple organizations that partner with us in putting together backpacks for these children to take home on weekends, and the amount of food that we put in there isn't just for the children, it's for the entire family.
Mm-hmm. You know, Andrea, first of all, in case people can't tell, we are so excited. You've got a little one on the way in November.
Yes, thank you.
You've worked with kids for a long time, having been a school teacher, now with the Housing Authority. When we talk about the issue of kids being hungry, what do you want people to know that, I mean, because I think people still say, we don't even see this, we don't know this. From your teaching experience, I'm sure you learned about that. Why don't we know more about what those needs are?
Sometimes, addressing the issue is knowledge, and there's so many subtle nuances that people don't catch. And it's been a great opportunity to see this from both sides. Coming from the classroom, you're a teacher and you collect those forms at the beginning of the year where students are applying for free and reduced lunch. And then you see there are certain students, and you know who qualifies, and they choose not to submit those forms. Maybe they don't want the teacher to know. Maybe they don't want their classmates to know. And then some of those same kids you see at lunchtime, and they are doing everything but eating. Some of them you offer something and they might say, I'll wait till I go home. Right. And so there are all these subtle things that are taking place, and nobody knows about it. So it's great to be on the other side now when you see the kids come home from school, and the first thing you want to do, the first thing they want to do is, is there something to eat? Is there a snack? A lot of them, the parents aren't at home after school, and they need somewhere to go. So it's great to have the community center right there, but they also need something to eat. And if they're going to start doing homework, if they're going to participate in a tutoring program, they want to be able to think. And having a full tummy also addresses that issue.
Right. It's part of the reason why, to me, I think the backpacks are so brilliant, because it's just a backpack. It's not a sack. It looks like something every kid is going to be carrying anyway. So what a neat concept to do that. What else do you guys want people to know about how important this issue is in our community, especially related to kids?
Well, each year we receive updated numbers on the children who are eligible for free and reduced meals in the schools. And unfortunately, just as the nation's food banks continue to distribute larger and larger amounts of food year over year, we're seeing the same trends within the schools, with the children being hungry.
Assuming some of that's just the tough economy as well, and
yes.
People losing jobs and
Correct. Okay. And I'll give you an example. In Leon County alone, last year we had 6 schools that had 100% of their student population eligible for free reduced meals. This year we have 10.
Wow.
They have another 11 schools that are at 75% of the student population or above that are eligible. It's a trend that we see year over year that just increases, and it's very alarming.
That's shocking to me. I just think that people just don't think about that the needs are that great in our community. Now, let's touch a little bit on federal support. I know there's a program called the SNAP benefit, and for those of us who are the old school, they used to be called food stamps. There's now a new program, SNAP. How does that work, and what changes are happening there that may be of concern to us in terms of assistance to people in our community?
Well, the food banks across the country obviously work to assign eligible people up for SNAP benefits. SNAP is a Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is the cornerstone of the nation's nutrition safety net, and it puts food on the table for 47 million people each month. And the benefits that SNAP provides are so needed that 97% of these benefits are redeemed prior to the end of each month. So that just shows the impact of that SNAP benefits are having.
Which means the last week of the month you may not have money left to pay for those groceries you need.
Correct, and those are the people that we see coming to our food pantries that we supply food to, that their benefits have run out before the end of the month and they need food to get them through to the next month. And the reduction, the $40 billion reduction in those benefits will greatly impact our community.
That's kind of scary. Last question for each of you. How can people get involved? There may be people seeing this as say, hey, I'd really like to help. What would you want them to know? You start first and tell us, what do you want people to know? How can I help?
Well, the biggest thing that our local officials can do, our folks that are social aid and folks that want to come out and be a voice in action, we definitely need that. It was great that our great Mayor Marks, Commissioner, County Commissioner Nick Maddox, Commissioner Andrew Gillum, and Representative Alan Williams have been great voices and activists behind this getting started. But sustainability is a major issue. We talked about this major cut coming, and we want to make sure that we can do this beyond this year. So we got these funds this year and we're getting started, but it's so much more than just having the food. So anybody that wants to volunteer, anybody that wants to get behind us and help us to find funding so that we can keep this program sustained beyond this year, that would be the best help that we could get.
Outstanding. How about you guys from Second Harvest?
Yes, sustainability is obviously the key. We obviously take food donations at Second Harvest, but we prefer monetary donations. Why? Because of our what we call buying power, the ability of our organization and our network to secure food at either donations or at reduced cost, we can make the money go so much farther. So by visiting our website, you can click on the Donate tab, and you can donate monetary donation. You can specify what program you'd like that to go to, whether it's seniors program, whether it's backpacks, and that money is designated for those programs.
Okay. I want to thank you both because you guys are out there fighting the fight and making a huge difference in the lives of kids. So thank you for being on our program, and best wishes on your new little one and the new arrival. To our viewers, we want to remind you that there are ways you can help. There's two websites you can go to. One is fightinghunger.org. That's the Second Harvest website. You can also go to the Tallahassee Housing Authority website. It's TALLHA.org. At either one of those sites, you can learn more about these programs and how you can help address the issue of children in our community who need food and need your assistance. Thank you for watching this edition of City Talk.
Thank you.